Tomorrow is the Super Bowl, one of the biggest days for sports in America. Honestly, probably in the world, everybody watches the Super Bowl. So since this is a baseball channel, obviously I'm not going to talk about the Super Bowl matchup, but I figured I'd be able to tie in football to baseball today in a video because we're going to be talking about 10 NFL stars who were actually drafted into Major League Baseball. So I'm leaving off guys like John Elway, some of the older players. I'm looking at guys that are a little more recent, a little bit more current. Now, a couple of these guys, they might not be playing in the league anymore, but you still know who they are. All these guys are pretty well known. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it. That's the best way to show your support. Subscribe if you're new and you enjoy the content. If you love baseball, click that sub button, join the team. Remember to get in the comment section down below. Tell me some more NFL players that maybe I left off on this list. Anybody else that played in the NFL that got drafted by major league teams? Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at GiraffeNeckMarc. Links in the description. Always talking baseball over there. And if you want to buy any tickets to any sporting events, hey, maybe you got $1,000 laying around to buy Super Bowl tickets. Well, guess what? I can save you $20 off. Go to SeatGeek, use the code Giraffe, and you'll save that $20. So like I said, I'm going to give you 10 different NFL stars that got drafted into Major League Baseball. Let's get it started off with someone who's a little out of the league right now, and that's going to be Johnny Manziel. But I feel like everybody knows who Johnny Manziel is, and even though he hasn't been playing in the NFL for a couple seasons, his name still carries some weight. Johnny Manziel, of course, went to Texas A&M, and he was actually on their baseball roster for quite a while as a shortstop, but he never really saw any action. I don't think he even played in a single game, so it's interesting how he's considered a baseball player. But regardless of having no stats in college, the San Diego Padres ended up drafting him in 2014 with their 28th round pick, but I think he knew that Johnny Manziel was never going to be playing shortstop for the Padres in the future, especially knowing that he was going to be a first round pick, which he was by the Cleveland Browns. But his NFL career didn't last long. Maybe he should have gone the baseball route. He could have been competing for a shortstop spot with Fernando Tatis Jr. Although, yeah, I mean, there's just no shot he beats out Fernando Tatis Jr. That dude is gross. But regardless, Johnny Manziel, San Diego Padres, it almost happened. Obviously didn't sign. And that's probably why I see Johnny Manziel San Diego Padre jerseys around. I've always wondered, like, he's not from San Diego. Why are people wearing these? He was a draft pick, something I learned today. Player number 2 of today's video is going to be famous Jameis Winston of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who played 2 seasons at Florida State. He was a pitcher, he was an outfielder, and he ended up getting drafted into Major League Baseball. In 2012, the Rangers drafted Jameis Winston with their 15th round pick. That's one of the higher drafted players in today's video. Had an absolute cannon of an arm and was a pretty good pitcher. I can actually give you some stats here because, like I said, he legitimately played at Florida State. Now, at the plate, he wasn't great. He played in 65 games with the Seminoles, hit .209, didn't have a single homer, 9 doubles, 3 triples, drove in 13 runs, and was 2 for 4 stealing bases. So there's not a whole lot there statistically with him. He obviously wasn't that great of a hitter, but I gotta say, Jameis Winston was actually a pretty successful pitcher in college baseball. He made 41 appearances as a Florida State Seminole out of the bullpen, was not a starter. He was like their closer almost. He had 9 saves on his career, an ERA of 1.94, like that's kind of gross. Struck out 52 batters, walking 19, so a decent K to walk ratio. Didn't give up a lot of runs, didn't give up a lot of hits. Jameis Winston was a pretty solid pitcher. So the Rangers, they definitely risk it taking a 15th round pick trying to get Jameis Winston away from the big money in football. Of course, it didn't end up working, but he might be one of the better players on the baseball side on this list. So get ready for this one. Kyle Long, the offensive lineman for the Chicago Bears, was casually a nasty baseball player. He ended up being drafted in the 23rd round by the Chicago White Sox in 2008. Weird, of course, Chicago like always staying connected with them, even with baseball and football. Obviously did not take it, but get ready to hear how hard he threw and like just how good of a player he was. I have some numbers from Perfect Game where they were like rating how fast he threw and all this kind of stuff. He was gross. So according to Perfect Game, he was ranked as the 40th best player in the country. His description was extra large, left-handed pitcher, mid-90s in Cincinnati Perfect Game National, and hits with power, very athletic. 6'7", 280 out of high school. That doesn't even make sense. That's unfair. Here's where it gets crazy. He ran a 6.95 60-yard dash, and he threw 96 miles an hour as a left-handed player. He had a commitment to Florida State. This dude was crazy good at baseball. He honestly could have possibly had a better career there, but he ended up going the football route, and I think it worked out. He got paid pretty well by the Chicago Bears, and he ended up being like an all-pro, I think, once or twice. Kyle Long, great football player, but man, I would have loved to see what this guy can do on the baseball field. 96 miles an hour at the size that he was at, and he ran decently well. I can only imagine how good he was. This next player is a bit bizarre. This time we've got Michael Vick, who was drafted in 2000 in the 30th round by the Colorado Rockies, despite not having played baseball since 8th grade. Yes, the Colorado Rockies took Mike Vick in the 30th round because of how good they saw he was at football. He hadn't played baseball in high school. He didn't play it in college since 8th grade. This guy hadn't touched the baseball since he hit puberty, basically. And the Rockies used a 30th round pick on him. Now, to be fair, the way the Rockies described why they picked him was kind of, it made sense. They saw his athleticism. They saw his speed. Colorado, Coors Field has one of the biggest outfields, if not the biggest outfield in all of baseball. And their explanation was, we thought he could cover a lot of ground. If he wanted to take a chance and play Major League Baseball instead of going the NFL route, we thought we'd be a good fit. And let me tell you, I would have loved to have seen Michael Vick play baseball. Imagine this guy running around the outfield. One of the fastest NFL players I feel like I've ever seen. Imagine him trying to track down a fly ball ball in Coors, running, hitting in the gap, cannon of an arm. Would have been interesting to see Michael Vick hit the MLB, but obviously NFL. Next up, we got Kyler Murray, who's probably the most recent player that you guys have heard of, who's now in the NFL, drafted by a major league team. He was drafted in 2018 by the Oakland A's, get this, in the first round with the 9th overall pick. When he was at Oklahoma, he was a legitimate baseball player. He was a very good outfielder, hit pretty well, obviously had crazy good speed, a good arm. He was pretty close to a 5-tool player, and the A's were willing to risk it all. They used the 9th overall pick in the 2018 draft. I can't believe it, knowing that Kyler Murray might end up becoming an NFL player. Of course, he ended up choosing the NFL over Major League Baseball, and it might be the right decision, but apparently he's thinking that he might be able to do both, so maybe we see a Kyler Murray comeback. I mean, listen to these numbers. I think the dude can do it. He was talented at both sports. So he really only played about one season at Oklahoma, which was 2018. 17 didn't get much time, but he had a really nice year in 2018. 10 homers, 13 doubles, 3 triples in 50 games played. He had 56 hits, scoring 46 runs, hit 296 with a 556 slugging, stole 10 bases, walked 28 times, struck out 56, so you know, it's a little high, but he hit 296 with a 398 on base, 556 slugging. That gives him an OPS at 954. Kyler Murray was a legit baseball player, and the A's took him in the first round because of it. It'll be interesting to see if he does the multi-sport thing. It's going to be tough, but I'd love to see it happen. In the 18th round of the 1995 Major League Baseball draft, the Montreal Expos selected Tom Brady. Now you're thinking, Tom Brady, probably a pitcher, right? Maybe a first baseman, big dude. No, Tom Brady was a catcher, and the Montreal Expos gave him big money to try and sign. They wanted this guy. They thought he had all-star potential. Of course, Tom Brady chose the NFL, ended up going to Michigan, and then got drafted by the Patriots, one of the greatest players of all time, if not the GOAT. But like a lot of these guys, excluding really Michael Vick thus far, Tom Brady was a legit baseball player. In his 2 varsity seasons, he hit .311 with 8 homers, 11 doubles, and drove in 44 RBIs. His senior year, he was an all-league catcher, and it would have been great to see what he can do on the baseball field, but I think he made the right decision considering he is a first-ballot Hall of Famer, and he is the greatest player of all time, essentially. It's not fair. That guy has the life. Good at baseball, good at football, married to Giselle. What else can you ask for? So I'll admit it myself, I had no idea that Golden Tate played baseball, and I definitely had no idea that he got drafted. In fact, he got drafted twice. He was drafted in the 42nd round of the 2007 Major League Baseball draft by the Arizona Diamondbacks, and then he was drafted 3 years later in the 50th round by the San Francisco Giants. He was a stud football and baseball player in high school, ended up going to Notre Dame, played both, decided he wasn't going to only focus on football after a slow freshman year. He was like, I'm going to play both sports, see what I can do. And his sophomore year, when he was finally getting some actual play with Notre Dame, he had a nice year. 329 batting average with a 399 on base, 414 slugging, stole 13 bases. Decent little player. You can see how he could fit in there. He's not going to be a power guy, but he could definitely fly around the base paths. And apparently he could get to any baseball that was hit in the air. He was a great outfielder, covered a lot of ground, which makes sense. I mean, he's a wide receiver in the NFL. He's a fast guy. It all makes sense. But Golden Tate, drafted twice in Major League Baseball. Didn't see that one coming. Now, the reason for making this video was, of course, because you've been hearing a lot about Pat Mahomes. And everybody's known the joke that the Detroit Tigers have a Super Bowl quarterback before the Detroit Lions. Because in 2014, with the 37th round pick, the Detroit Tigers drafted Patrick Mahomes, which is where that joke comes from. Pat Mahomes, another one of these guys who was a stud in high school. I mean, he was considered as one of the top prospects in the MLB draft. He just fell so late because teams basically knew there was no shot they were getting him. And if you took him, you were taking a big risk. He was going to play football. He had no intentions of really becoming an MLB player or a minor leaguer at this time. His eyes were set on football despite his dad being a major league player in the past. But still, he had some talent, that's for sure. We actually have film of him playing baseball, hitting, pitching at different scouting events. He was a nice little player. In the state playoffs, he went up against Michael Kopech in a game, struck out 16, won, threw a no-hitter. He was also a very good hitter. Almost hit for the cycle a couple different times in high school. He could throw 90 plus miles an hour. He hit for power. He did it all. Pat Mahomes was a beast in baseball as well, and I would have loved to see what he could have done at the major league level, or at least in minor leagues. It would have been cool to see, and he's a pretty good quarterback in the NFL. So again, another one of these guys probably made the right decision. Down to the final two. Gonna go with Eric Decker for this next one. Similar to Golden Tate, another guy I did not know played baseball. He played at the University of Minnesota. He was very good as well. Drafted 2 different times. Drafted in the 39th round in 2008 by the Milwaukee Brewers, and then drafted the next year in the 27th round by the Minnesota Twins. Teams wanted this guy. They were hoping to steal him away from the NFL. As we know, they were unsuccessful. Let me tell you Eric Decker's stats though at Minnesota. Like I said, solid baseball player. In 2008, he played in 54 games, hit .329 with a .439 on base, .478 slugging, 3 homers, 28 RBIs, stole 9 bases. That's an OPS well above 900, not too shabby. And then the following season in 2009, again, not too bad. .319 average, .381 on base, .465 slugging, 4 homers, 25 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. Yeah, he was just an okay player. got drafted twice, didn't play in the minors, but it didn't matter. He was really good at the University of Minnesota, and he had a nice NFL career. And then the final player of today's video is going to be Russell Wilson, which I feel like everybody knows about. He's another one of these guys who was drafted 2 different times in Major League Baseball. 2007, the 41st round by the Baltimore Orioles, and then he got drafted later on by the Colorado Rockies in 2010 in the 4th round. That's a very high pick. Now, as a baseball player, Russell Wilson really wasn't that great. You were kind of going off projections with him a lot more than these other guys who had better stats in college. But Russell Wilson's still a decent player. I mean, he still got drafted, right? That's pretty impressive on its own. He was a second baseman at NC State. Teams saw the potential with him. They were like, oh, he's a very athletic guy. He's speedy. We could probably morph him into a nice little player. In the minor leagues, didn't have great stats. In 2010, he played the minors in low A, hit 230 with a 336 on base, 377 slugging with 2 homers. And then the following year, again, he played in minor league baseball again. 228 average, 366 on base, 342 slugging with 3 homers and 15 stolen bases at single A. He then, of course, ended up focusing on his football career, became a Seattle Seahawks quarterback. And then he actually got traded to the Yankees. He went to the Rangers at one point, and then I think he went to the Yankees. For a player who has no aspiration of playing in Major League Baseball, and he honestly, I don't think is good enough to do it. It's funny that he keeps getting traded around, and to his credit, he took some at-bats in spring training with the Yankees recently. So those are 10 NFL stars who were drafted by Major League teams. A lot of these guys, I'm sure you didn't know, because let me tell you, I had no clue about some of them. I'd love to know what you think, or if there's anybody I left off in this list down in the comment section below. Do you enjoy this kind of video? Remember to leave a like on it if you did enjoy it, as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click that sub button, join the team. What you waiting for? Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at GiraffeNeckMarc. Links in the description. Quick Super Bowl prediction. I'm going to go with the 49ers are beating the Chiefs. Gotta root for my boy Debo. Gonna wrap up today's video there. You guys know the drill. YouTube recommends you watch this, as well as this is my most recent upload, so click through those if you have not yet seen them. Thank you so much for watching today's video, guys. I do appreciate you, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Well, maybe not tomorrow because it's Super Bowl Sunday, but I'll catch you all soon for another video. Bye.